Blackcraft Wrestling No Apologies is one of the strangest pay-per-views that I've ever seen. What on earth is Blackcraft Wrestling? Well, as it turns out, it's the third worst rated wrestling pay-per-view online, and it's also a cult. Okay, I know I'm giving you a lot of information all at once, and your head is probably spinning at this point, so let me bring you back to reality of a well-placed punch to the gut. Blackcraft was a wrestling promotion based out of Pittsburgh. And no, this isn't the cult of Perk Angle. It's actually an offshoot of the gothic clothing brand for rich but miserable ungrateful kids. Now this promotion, unsurprisingly, didn't last for long, but it could boast a well-known and talented roster and had ties to Seth Rollins' wrestling school. They also filmed their shows in a cinematic way, and this was not a typical wrestling show. It had a very clear identity, which I'm a big proponent of. I guess you'd compare it to Lucha Underground. The first few events they held weren't bad. Then over the WrestleMania weekend in 2019, it all came crashing down. No apologies. They really should be apologising. The show took place at White Eagle Hall in New Jersey, a building which had a hard curfew. More on that later. This is not the story of a dodgy promoter, and what happened in this video was not a deliberate attempt to screw over the fans. It was just a massive mistake by the promoter. The show features many future All Elite wrestlers and top indie names from the time. It would not have been cheap to bring all these guys together. The show ended up starting late, and it was a massive rush to get it all ready in 2 hours. By the time the show started, they were behind schedule in a building with a hard curfew. Even on the pay-per-view stream, you're left staring at basically nothing for the first 16 minutes. But you do get the audio, and all you can hear is voices desperately trying to start the show. They keep talking about how everything is going wrong. The show finally begins at 20 past midnight, further adding to the edginess of the cult. So timing is the story of today's video, and you're about to see the disastrous consequences of when pay-per-view timing is mismanaged. And the building has a time curfew. It's time to start the review. Some satanic music plays as a figure stoops forward on stage, in front of fire. He introduces himself as the Preacher. He will be like the management figure, I guess. Interesting fact is, this is actually Pinhead of Hellraiser. He cuts a spooky promo, sort of in James Mitchell style. He says, we're all here because we can create our own future and this cult belongs to all of them. He names the fans of this promotion the Unbelievers. So it's like the opposite of Lucha Underground now. He starts running down the card, then he suddenly offers the crowd a chance to become part of the cult. I thought he already said that they were all part of the cult. He's looking for a crowd member to join them. He drops an F-bomb and eventually chooses someone from the audience. Yes, this is a wrestling show apparently. Some druids take the crowd member. Plot twist, he will be joining the cult as a human sacrifice. They start attaching the audience member to a cross, just like the Attitude Era. They raise him up as the drunk idiot is cheering and whooping. The Preach demands to crucify him with nails. They nail him to the cross. Satanic music plays again. The Preacher is screaming crucify at the crowd. They raise him up again and he's no longer cheering and whooping. And that's how the No Apologies pay-per-view began. We meet our commentary team for this one, which is Kevin Gill of ICW and GCW fame and Larry Legend, who sounds quite a bit like Paul Heyman. The opening is a Devil's Den match between G Raver and Schlack, who is substituted for Jimmy Havoc. Schlack looks like Brian Cage with a gut. So what is a Devil's Den match? Well, it seems to be a match with the ropes replaced with chains and fish hooks around the ring. There is a botch in literally the first 10 seconds as G Raver tries to dropkick Schlack through a door, but he bounces off of it. G Raver immediately flip dives out of the ring. Schlack responds with a suplex into chairs. Everything looks like it's falling apart in this ring. Schlack now hits a German suplex and an overhead suplex through the door from earlier on. In any normal match it would be over, but nowhere near yet. Schlack goes all manhunt on G Raver with a plastic bag. He escapes and chops the big man down to size. They both send each other through some more doors and neither man is selling anything. G Raver tries a chair dive but is caught and powerbombed on the chair. Once again it's not over. G Raver hits some needles into Schlack's forehead and hammers them with a chair. The match slows down for a long time now as Schlack uses every cell in his brain to construct a chair bridge. Raver jumps on him but they miss the construction, but that is somehow the free. Schlack is a bad loser and bites G Raver. What a strange match, they didn't even use the gimmick. The chains were unused and so were the fish hooks. Why go to the hassle of setting all of this up if you weren't even going to use it? Even more so when it takes a further 10 minutes of the pay-per-view to remove the chains and set up the wrestling ropes. That was some crazy violence, but ultimately it was a waste of time, and time is of the essence on this show. It looks like a bomb has gone off in this arena. They decide to eat up the 10 minutes by showing replays of previous shows. I actually really like Pinhead as a management figure, he does a really good job, although he didn't deserve to have lighter fluid spat in his face. Apparently Pinhead's been trying to kill a wrestler called Matthew Justice. Ohio versus everything are in the ring, whilst they're still desperately trying to repair it. OVE are the tag champions of this promotion. It's announced that there's about to be a wacky tag match. There's this team called The Crown who are in it. I'm not sure why they're in it because nobody knows who they are. The commentary team are stumped. It's embarrassing. They pause their talk for ages as they try to work out who these guys are. The next team are The Butcher and The Blade, followed up by La Familia, Bestia and Damien CCC, father and son. Damien recently suffered a heart attack and there's currently a fundraiser going on to help pay for his treatment. Just Google it. The ring already looks full, but another team enters called The Main Event. Spelt wrong. Everybody crashes together like morons and the match only runs for 3 minutes. Out of the blue, The Main Event beat Bestia with a throw into a German suplex. Nobody reacts when the pin is counted and everybody seems confused that that's over just like that. I can't rate this match, it barely existed. Matthew Justice is someone that nobody's ever heard of and he makes his way out. He was the man who was killed by the preacher earlier on, but now he's back. He takes on Gangrel, who's complete with the Brood music. He's actually aged remarkably well. The funniest bit is the commentator saying that Gangrel goes to bed early and then realising that his gimmick is that he's a vampire as they desperately try to backtrack. Justice dives on him out of the ring. He tries a second dive out of the ring but completely misses and falls into the chairs. Gangrel hits a guillotine and a snap slam for a 2. This match is super slow and boring. Justice hits a diving knee for a 2. Gangrel responds with the Impaler DDT but Justice bails from the ring. Gangrel is almost rolled up as he brings Justice back to the ring. He quickly recovers and throws Justice overhead into the corner. For some reason, Justice no-sells that and quickly hits a Death Valley driver to beat Gangrel in about 7 minutes. Nobody cares about Matthew Justice. Unfortunately, it's not the last time we'd be seeing him on this show. Now we've got a women's tag match. The Essence are the tag team champions Harlow O'Hara and Viperous, and they take on Machiko-san and she cuts a promo saying that her girl couldn't make it tonight. So her replacement tag team partner is randomly Kimberly. She does a splits and stays there gormlessly smiling as she gets her teeth kicked in. She hits a head scissors on Harlow as tags are made. These girls really are up in the work rate of the show, it actually feels like they're trying. The cameramen are in shock and can't keep up with them. Machiko-san is isolated by the Hills. The Hills seem to be utilising lots of suplexes. There's a completely undeserved hot tag for Kimberly who's throwing kicks and suplexes. She desperately tries to wake up the crowd, but she misses her swanton bomb.
Dude, I was watching Blackcraft No Apologies the other day, man. And this chick, Kimberly, she stole my swanton bomb finishing maneuver, man. But she missed it. Man, I'll go back to Carolina. And I'll go tell my stoner friend Shannon all about you, Kimberly, man.
The Hills hit a flatliner, quickly followed by a DDT, and just like that, it's over. The Essence of Ass. To be fair, the girls tried, and it was the first match that actually felt like a wrestling match, but it was too short and just a bit random. We ain't hanging around at this point, it's like someone has stuck on the fast forward button. Simon Gotch fought Pentagon Jr. I'm sure a lot of fans would have come to see this one, but at this point Blackcraft are running the show on 2 times the speed. Lots and lots of reversals, and that's the tale of this match. Pentagon hits the sling blade and the double stomp. Botch throws a kick quickly into a pile driver, and just like that it's over in 3 minutes. This was not the match that he needed to cut time through. Fans would have been livid if they came to see this. Gotch is a bad winner and tries to break a fan's chair. Pentagon celebrates in the ring. I thought he lost. A number 1 contendership match now. Dick, Richard Justice, Luchasaurus, who seems to be a relative unknown at this point, Matt Cross, Mecha Wolf, Teddy Hart. He is described as the future of professional wrestling, by the way. I think it might be a bit late for that now. And finally, Ray Fenix, who couldn't even be bothered to put his wrestling gear on, so he wrestles in a hoodie. This match is a fun spot match, but it's the same story as the last one. It's incredibly rushed. Get all your shit in and go. That's the story of this one. Justice pulls a gun on the Luchasaurus who kicks him, and it just looks so bad. Mecha Wolf hits a bunch of topes in quick succession. Fenix kicks him to stop him, and he does a splash out of the ring onto all the guys. Teddy Hart holds the referee's hand to hit a moonsault out of the ring. He then just goes and sits in the corner for a while. I think he was pissed off. Teddy helps Richard Justice climb to the top rope, but he's still too fat. Everyone is just stood around waiting for him to do his move, it's so goofy. He eventually dives off the apron into the guys. Teddy Hart is dragged out the ring and he just looks confused. Cross hits the cutter, but he can't hit his dive. Fenix kicks Justice and makes a cover whilst Teddy Hart just watches that all go down. It's just a 2, Mecha Wolf has a flurry of offense to destroy Fenix. Teddy is still just waiting there. Mega Wolf notices Teddy and goes to meet him but regrets it as Teddy hits a top rope Canadian Destroyer for the 3. Everybody got their stuff in, but at the same time it was all disjointed and everybody just seemed to be blatantly waiting to do spots, but not making an effort to act injured. They were just stood there waiting. It didn't feel like a great way to use some of these names. Now we get the only match on the entire card that is actually worth watching. The show goes to complete hell after this one, so let's enjoy it whilst we can. It's a no DQ match between Chris Dickinson and Masato Tanaka. Yeah, that guy, the one from ECW. The story is that Dickinson grew up idolising Tanaka. The only thing Tanaka's lost is a bit of muscle mass. He's now only billed at 190 pounds. Tanaka hits an early crossbody for a 1. He bails to the apron where he's kicked and then damn near pile-drivered through the apron. It's nowhere near over though. Dickinson hits a devastating Death Valley driver but isn't bothered about trying to get the win. He disappears for a bit to set up a table on the outside. He tries to powerbomb Tanaka as he relives a Mike Awesome moment, but Tanaka escapes. They fight on the apron until Dickinson hits a driver through the table. After a bit, Tanaka wakes up and starts throwing suplexes and clotheslines. The Tornado DDT gets him a 2. Dickinson stops his frog splash attempts and hits a top rope Michinoku driver. No pin is made. He hits a German instead and then makes a pin for a 2. They decide to duel with chairs now. Dickinson just holds his head out and allows himself to be smacked. These two guys are shortening their lives for this worthless show. They eventually take each other out for a double down. Eventually another table ends up in the ring. Tanaka attempts a sunset flip powerbomb with Dickinson desperately clinging on, almost adding new meaning to "Don't look at my ass." Tanaka eventually powerbombs him on the back of his head and punctuates it with a frog splash. Dickinson kicks out at 1 and fires up. He's going mental. Tanaka isn't phased and hits a diamond dust for a 2. He quickly follows that of a basement clothesline and that is the 3. This match felt so out of place on this show because it was really great. I can't believe Tanaka can still have these matches. This man is just built differently. What a G. How is it that so many of the men who had these sort of matches during the Attitude Era are now crippled, but he is not? Dickinson bows to him. For the first time ever, I was okay with this respectful gesture. A really cool match. Now I hope you enjoyed that one, because this show is about to slide into the dump station. It's a women's title match now. Maria Manic faces Paige's mum, Soraya Knight, who is the champion. They start with a crazy brawl around the outside. Chairs are used and then they have a stare down. The Essence tag team return as they are followers of Paige's mum. Maria Manic is fighting them on the outside. The ref is a complete dick and rings the bell to start the match, despite only one lady being in the ring. He counts out Maria Manic and the match is over in 10 seconds. The crowd loudly boo and groan. One finish like this would begrudgingly be acceptable, but sadly that isn't going to be the case. Quickly, a small man called David Starr walks out. He's challenging for the heavyweight title which belongs to Johnny, Nitro, Morrison, Impact, Mundo, Blackcraft. You might think that this match is going to be another high effort matchup, but you'd be wrong because Johnny just pins him in 10 seconds. David Starr is a bad loser and he puts a submission on which knocks Johnny out. Pinhead appears again as the crowd loudly chant bullshit. He says Johnny is not worthy of being their champion. There's some loud smashing noises as Matthew Justice reappears. He says he wants a match for the heavyweight title right now. Pinhead won't give him the match. It gets heated with Pinhead saying, "You'll get the match over my dead body." And then Justice just cuts his Pinhead off. Everybody is screaming, "He just murdered him, call the cops. Someone think about the children." Has anybody ever killed a management figure to get a title shot before? Shame this couldn't have happened with Russo. This somehow equals that Justice can now have his title match. He picks up Johnny Blackcraft and crushes him for the 3 in just 10 seconds once again. Justice is the new champion. What a way to end the show. But no, hold your hawks. That isn't the end of the show. There's a load of figures moving around in the crowd. There's another match. What? Why? They've decided to randomly do a 30-person battle royal. Indie talents, hardcore wrestlers, women. Where were all these people for the rest of the show? Just Incredible is here, hitting people with a kendo stick. Hornswoggle's in there for some reason, they don't even acknowledge him. They continue to have the most uncoordinated battle royal of all time, with people just being thrown out in record time. One guy has just stood on the apron downing a beer. I don't blame him. The lights start getting turned on and off as the building tries to kick them out because it's past the time curfew. Trash is occasionally thrown into the ring. You can hear somebody begging the commentary team to take the show home. Ziggy Dice wins with the help of some woman. It went less than 5 minutes. Why did they think this was the best way to end the show? It didn't make any sense. The commentators say there will be no celebration music because the system has just blown up and they're being kicked out of the building. The closing line on the commentary is that we at Blackcraft Wrestling offer you no apologies, and it ends. This had potential to be really good. There were so many talented wrestlers on the show. How do you fuck up this badly? How did they afford all of these people? I have no idea. AEW starting up a few months later really saved these guys. How do you only get one good match out of all of these people? Well, timing was the downfall of this promotion. They went on late, which wasted a lot of time. It was already well past midnight when the show started. The crucifixion angle wasted 10 minutes, and ultimately, what the hell did that have to do with anything on the rest of the show anyway? They started with chains instead of ropes, and then swapping them out wasted another 10 minutes. That opening match was the longest match of the night too, by the way, and it sucked. They booked way too many matches and wrestlers for the time that they had available. This led to 3 pointless matches at the end of the show and a bunch of other rushed matches which really should have been decent to good. If it wasn't for Masato Tanaka and Dickinson, this very well might be the worst show of all time. As it was, that one match meant I saw something worthwhile. Pretty much any wrestler that drew a crowd for this show was only wrestling for a few moments, so it felt like a major rip-off. Out of 11 matches, 6 of the matches went 5 minutes or less. Blackcraft Wrestling indeed offered no apologies for this event, but it would be the end of their promotion, who haven't run a show since this one. Fans were too pissed off. The most annoying thing is that this had potential. An excellent placement of Pinhead as the management figure, who was great on the mic. A clear identity and way of filming things. A talented roster and an intimate arena. Mismanagement screwed this thing up so badly, it was a complete dumpster fire which I just couldn't look away from. They were aware of the time curfew on the building, but chose to focus on the wrong things, which ate up way too much time. But despite all of that, I wouldn't call it boring, and that's the worst thing you can be in wrestling. There's a really cool documentary on this show as well if you're interested in watching that. This show gets a 3 out of 10. It's better than Legends and Icons, but for the simple fact that this could have been great, it leaves me with nothing but hate. And if you don't agree with that, I'll take your girl and make her late.